internet and you go and do a Google search on photography, you're going to find extremely complicated topics which require a much higher degree of experience or understanding, maybe more for graduates and postgraduates, etc., that you would come across. But I want to tailor-make this so that it covers photography in very, very simple terms for everybody, right? I also want to cover extensively about the kind of wildlife and nature that we have in our own country and around the world. I think that itself is a story. That itself is a whole new opportunity for children to understand that what is around. I mean, a lot of times, even though we are in Bangalore, people may not even have gone to the jungles which are in Karnataka, right? So unlocking that mind, and of course there are fantastic forests even in India and of course around the world as well, wonderful experiences out there. So to get them started in understanding what is around here, right? Photography equipment is the other one, to understand what and how to actually use it. An understanding of photography concepts, the basics of it to understand, and in a way that youngsters can really grasp onto these topics. And more importantly, the way this session is structured is that there would be a lot of, it would lay the foundations for them to have a lot of self-learning going forward. Their learning will not stop at the end of these sessions. The foundation will be built, and the paths will be set for them, that they would be able to explore more and more on their own, and go on to their own experiential journeys the same way I have done in my life. Next slide, ma'am. So again, this image in the background is actually two kingfishers. A lot of you would be surprised to say, hey, how is there a stump of wood, and how are you getting the reflection, and why is the water all dark? This photograph was taken in a place called Ranganthittu. It's a beautiful bird sanctuary, probably among the best in India, and it's only about 130 kilometers from Bangalore. So if youngsters want to explore their photography skills, there are great places even out here that you can go and actually make images like this, and nature at its very best. So this is a pair of two kingfishers. One of them is in flight in front, and the other one is waiting on the perch. And you get to observe the different behaviors of animals. And this is only 120, 130 kilometers from here. So I would cover the kind of techniques I've used to actually make an image like this. Those things become important because I think in today's world, if you have a camera, it's very easy to just point and take a picture. But it's very hard to point and take a very creative or an interesting picture. So that is the difference that I want to bring about. It's not about just photographing every single thing you see in front of you and then saying, hey, my picture is not something that anybody remembers, or my picture is not something that has got a wow factor to it. But the simple things that make it interesting, how to play with light, how to bring in creative composition elements, and in terms which are very, very simple for children to understand, is where this would be oriented. And what I would also want to be doing in this program is also going to deep dive, and I will cover some of the aspects of how I have gone about making my photographs, right? Photographs like this, and there are plenty of others that I would be covering up as well. And interestingly, what we would want to do here is also launch a practical photography session for children. And that is the big takeaway of this program, right? Once you've understood the basics of your cameras, of no matter what kind of cameras you have, and you've understood how to use it, you've understood how to make creative images, the next step is that you should go out there and actually try this out on your own. And that is part of these sessions. So we want you to go out there. We want you to go ahead and try make images. And we will structure it in a way that, given the COVID constraints, given the lockdown constraints, etc., you still have enough opportunities to actually go and make these images, whether it's in your house, or whether it's your pet, or whether it's your garden, or whether it's your neighbor's garden, etc., whatever it is, it would be structured around doing something on those lines. And the third session would be an interim review. This is probably one of the most important aspects of the program. And this would be giving more structured time to all the youngsters out here, right? So we would have you starting off on your program to go ahead and do the session of making practical images. But at the same time, youngsters may get stuck in understanding how to unlock some more creative aspects in their mind. So I would be having sessions in the middle, more targeted, maybe small batches. It's either one-on-one or maybe a couple of kids together, coming together and explaining to them what is it that they are doing right or wrong in that technique, so they can still use the sessions to make the maximum out of it. So once that session is done, we would have children go ahead and actually submit their photographs. And ma'am, the last slide. And we would want the children to talk about their own photography journey. I think, and the reason this is important, if you look at any photograph which you remember in your mind today as an adult or as a youngster, if there are photographs you've seen around the internet or anywhere else, the ones you remember in your mind often have a story behind them, right? And those are images where you form the maximum connection with. It's not about, hey, okay, that's a tiger picture. No, there's a story behind, right? There's a tiger picture that I put out there and there's a story behind it. The same way it goes for the elephant crossing the river, there's a story behind it. So it's the stories that we want the youngsters to bring out. And when they talk about their stories and their experiences in creating this image, that is when we feel that we'll be able to unlock the opportunities of the creative freedom, the connection with nature, and the connection with photography as a hobby coming together, all the aspects coming together, and then going, and then kids have the confidence of talking about what has made that image for them. So this is the simple construct that we're thinking about and keeping it as a very fun-filled session for the children. And I'll open it up for Q&A. I'm happy to take all your questions, and please feel free to ask anything at all. It's absolutely okay to ask any kind of question out here. I'll quickly cover this image as well. I have put out another image out here. This kind of a photograph took me 10 years in the making. It took me 10 years in the making simply because it needed a lot of factors to come together. First of all, it needed a hippo in the foreground. It needed the hippo to be in the water looking at me. It needed a darker background of the trees at the back. And then it needed the sun to be close to sunset point, so that the sunlight is actually skimming across the river so that the water goes darker. And after all of that, you have to wait for the hippo to snort. When this hippo gives out the threat display, it is actually throwing up a plume of fine mist in the sky, and that is when it is lit up. So this kind of an image took me about close to 10 years to actually make this kind of a frame. And I have tried this multiple times, but it's only been persistence, which is actually, and looking for the right kind of opportunity, the right kind of place to actually make an image like this. Ma'am, and the last slide. These are beautiful flamingos. This is at a place called Lake Nakuru in Africa. And it's a very unique photograph simply because the way the light has come together to create this scene and the reflection in the water, and for the way in which the four of them have come together in almost like a very scenic dance pose. And that was when, as a photographer, you're able to relate to this moment and say, you know, now this is the opportunity, this is the moment to actually take this photograph. This is when it becomes the most meaningful. And so it's stories like this, and it's how to unlock this kind of creativity in youngsters that will be taught in this session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amit. Miss Anita, can you just change the slide? Yeah. Now, to know more about the work,
Ma'am, I think we lost your audio.
Sorry to interrupt, Monica ma'am. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Monica ma'am? Okay, so thank you so much, sir, for giving a clear picture about the sessions for the workshop for the students. So to know more about the workshop, please make a note of the date and share it on your screen. So the dates are as follow, like 22nd, 29, 26th of June and 2nd June. So timing is 6 p.m. to 7:15. Any questions regarding the workshop or anything you can ask now? You can put it in chat box also. Sir, Mr. Amit, sir, just a request from my side. Can you just show some of the photographs, like you have taken some personal photographs, so that you can just share it, some more photographs with us so that we can see?
Sure, ma'am. Let me try to see how to share it here.
Yeah, yes, sir.
One second.
When and how will the link be shared for these sessions? Yeah, we'll share it right away.
One second, I'm just opening up the folders.
Okay, one interesting question from Harshita. Have you ever been attacked by an animal or a bird while taking a picture or camping?
No, I've not been attacked as in a real threat out to me. No, not that way. But you do have a lot of instances when the animals will do a mock charge and they're giving you a heads up sign saying that you're getting too close to my territory, please step back. So there are those kind of moments that come in where they will come and chase you in some shape or form. You will see that, and it's a lot of good sense that you have to apply at that point in time to know when is it that you're actually creating a situation where that could be trouble, and you step away from it. So I have come in very close proximity with cheetahs. If you look at my Instagram handle, you will see me having a selfie with a cheetah. I've had elephants within 3 feet of me. Some of my photographs, elephants. I've sat next to cheetahs as well to take that photograph. Tigers within like 4-5 feet of me, etc. So there are a lot of these opportunities. Elephants, of course, I love elephants, and I've spent time walking among elephants as well. So you get to see a lot of those moments too. Um, and that makes it so much more what would I say uh, encouraging to experience nature.
Thank you for your response, sir. I have shared the link in the chat box. You can just check it. It's a Google form. You can fill it. If you're really interested to attend the webinar, you can just fill the form. Any questions? Any more questions?
I'll try to share my screen.
Yeah, yes, sir.
And it'll give you an insight. I think you'll have to take off the participant from your end and then give me the.
Yeah, I'll do it right. Yes.
Let me know if you see this. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, we can.
Yeah, okay. So these are some of the images around the world. This is burst of sun rays coming through at sunset and elephants crossing in. I'm obviously in a boat at this point in time. These are a pair of lions in the forest. This is an elephant coming very close to me, and at this time I'm actually on the ground, and I'm actually about maybe 10-15 feet away from this elephant while I sit on the floor. And again, you'll see a lot of elephant images because I spent a good amount of my time chasing elephants, photography. This is a very difficult moment to talk about, but nevertheless, I'll run you through this story. I think nature and wildlife has its stories. We often don't understand that, animals have feelings. Animals have deep feelings. This photograph is taken in Masai Mara, and this is called the Great Migration. The one you see at the back is the mother of this baby giraffe. So the scene that had happened was that every year this migration they cross this river, and there are these 18-foot Nile crocodiles which are waiting to catch them. The first time, the baby and the mother were on the right-hand side of the river, and the mother crossed, but the baby stayed back because the crocodiles cut the path, and the mother actually went across the river successfully. We were surprised, thinking that, okay, what would happen next? That the mother has crossed, the baby is still on this side, and there are about 6-7 huge crocodiles out here. At that point in time, the baby started calling for the mother, and the mother actually came back across the river to get its baby. She actually came back, risking her life, jumping over all the crocodiles to get a baby for the crossing again. And the minute they started this crossing, that's when the crocodile caught the baby out here. So it's a very touching story. It is, how do I say, it's one of those moments of wildlife which sticks in your mind forever, right? This moment is always etched in my memory. It's something that you always wonder about, that, that you look at zebras, we think of them as just animals, but how often do we actually think that it's a mother and a child relationship, right? How often do we actually have that perspective? Uh, these are the gorillas in Uganda. These are the silverbacks, the famous silverbacks. They're huge. They're absolutely huge creatures. They're like 150 kilos. I mean, they're massive and they're tall when they stand up. Uh, and it's just interesting to observe their entire behavioral pattern, right? The way they're actually oriented in their family. Uh, this is again a tiger at Kabini. It's the forest which is about 300 kilometers from Bangalore. If any of you haven't been there, it's a great place to go to. And this is again one of those moments of the mother at Kabini again with her cubs playing. This was taken last year just after the lockdown. Um, this is at Ranthambore. This is a tigress, which is the daughter of, and what will happen is over a period of time, I'll just phrase a little bit, is that uh, when you start visiting these forests, you will suddenly realize that people know these animals. People know these tigers. People know these leopards. The forest guards, the forest department people, they know them, right? As in they're able to identify, and there are names that they attach with each of these, and you're able to understand their family tree and things like that. So this tigress is the daughter of a very famous tiger at Ranthambore right now, who's called Arrowhead. She's called the Lady of the Lake. You should Google up on that. And in fact, this is the Lady of the Lake. This is Arrowhead walking in an area called Zone 3, which is the river, and she's on a hunt, and you can see the cheetah running in the opposite direction. And this is again Arrowhead walking in front of the fort out there. This is the, what do I say? It's a very very famous fort in India. If you look at the Ranthambore forest and you look at the history of the Ranthambore forest, these forts have been built like over 1,000 years back, and they all have immense history associated with them. This is again an elephant playing in dust. This is again taken from a recent trip at Corbett. This Look at this image closely. You'll see what it's about. It's a lion. It's a male lion walking on a tree. So yeah, let me try. This is an aggressive hippo. They are aggressive animals. This was again taken at the Chobe River in Botswana, and you have to be very careful with the hippos. They're animals with really really bad temper. But there are more images of mine on Instagram as well. Feel free to check it out there. I don't post very much, but you will be able to see some of those. This is a silhouette of leopard on a tree. It's walking up in a white sky, and you see the head of its kill hanging out here. So this is again one of those nature stories that you can just hold onto your mind and just remember these stories forever. So these are some of the images, ma'am, if that helps.
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, Monica, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure having you with us. And in fact, our attendees would have gained a lot of information about wildlife photography. And thank you so much once again for your excellent coverage.
Thank you, lot, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you so much, all of you.
Yeah, so we do have some more questions, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Please feel free.
Yeah, I'll just... So I'm very much interested in bird photography. So will you please give me some tips?
Yes, so the session will... Yes, so the session will cover bird photography as well. It's not just for animals alone. It will be covering birds as well. Nature, I mean, everything associated with nature will be covered in these sessions.
Yeah, one more question. How do you get the perfect picture and the pose from the animals?
See, the biggest difference in taking a picture at home and taking a picture in wildlife is that a picture at home, you can tell the person in front of you to pose the way you want them to. And you can keep telling them do this 100 times, depending on if it's your younger sister or your older brother or anyone. You can bully them emotionally and tell them to keep posing till the time they actually give you the right photograph. But wildlife is not that way. The moment never comes back in wildlife. If you miss that opportunity, it's gone forever. So a lot of it is in understanding the behavior of the animals, the predicted kind of behavior that they have, and then anticipating where and when to wait for that kind of a photograph. A lot of it is anticipation. A lot of it is understanding about nature as well. And those are the tools in your mind that you would need to unlock to actually going about doing this. And I
Okay,
will
the
cover
next
that in the session as well. I will give you examples of in what conditions, how do you track tigers, how do you track elephants, how do you know how to predict their behavioral path, right? So those things will come up.
Okay. The next question is the 5-day workshop will cover all these tips. Okay. So for that's an answer. Okay. So what kind of cameras are required?
So, like I said, to get started, to understand your basic journey in photography, you can start with your phone. You can start with the point and shoot camera at home, or if your parents have a digital SLR or anything like that, those can also be used. So we will cover those aspects and get you started on the journey. Once your foundation is set, then adapting to different kinds of cameras just becomes a delta of learning opportunity. If your foundation is set, it's like if you know your tables in math, right? If you know your tables in math, 5 years down the line, you can solve complex equations because your fundamentals are in place. So the way this course will be structured, teaching around cameras, will also help build that. So as and when you grow, and as and when you grow into your journey more and more, you will have an awareness of the kind of equipment out there that exists, and when and where you should actually start taking it or purchasing it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? The link for the Google form is shared in the chat box. You can check it at our website also. So you'll get the link so that you can join the session, the webinar.
So, no, any other questions?
Yeah, one second. Okay, the question is, are most of the wildlife photos taken using a tripod or handheld?
So, a very interesting question, and that too we will be covering in this session. It will be a mix, looking at the kind of opportunities that are there. It also depends on the kind of equipment you're holding in your hand. So, I will cover some of those scenarios, the kind of support systems. It's not necessary that everything needs a tripod, everything needs to be handheld. It just depends on the kind of subject that you are focusing on and the kind of equipment at the point in time in your hand. So, we can cover those as well in the session.
Okay. Okay. How do you determine where to crop an animal that is bigger than the frame?
Oh, where to crop an animal that is bigger than the frame? Okay, so I'm not too clear of the question. Let me try and understand this. So normally, I never ever crop my images. I whatever images of mine you see are of what I finished composition in the camera itself. Because I carry a range of equipment, so I think that if you have to be a professional photographer, you should be able to understand what that image is about, and not try and take an image which is the size of your screen and then just zoom in and crop in one small portion of it and say that's the frame. A lot of people do that, and that's okay. That's how they look at it. But for me, typically, I prefer to finish my entire composition when I'm taking that shot, and so I don't need to do any post-processing work or trying to crop it later. But we will cover those techniques as well. We will cover some aspects of that in the session too.
Okay, thank you so much.
Fair enough. Any other questions, ma'am, or you're good for now?
No, sir. I'm just checking. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we are done. We're done. Yes.
Great. All right. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I do look
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing you all in the
Yeah.
webinar.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I repeat, the Google Forms, the workshop is shared in the chat box. You can just click that. And the fee for the workshop is around 2,000 rupees. If you miss out the link, you can just check it in our website also. And upcoming events. Next, we do have a music composition webinar, which is on 18th May, 3:30 by Mr. Ruben and Mr. Sunny. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you. You may leave now. Thank you.